c'est la vie. I'm taking a shot for my enemies. I can't waste no more time on my energy. I know they know I got it on lock. Go against me, that's a long shot. Cause I'm counting wins all around the clock. Never doubt me, boy, don't stop. Who do you feel when they make you the monster? I am not scared of none of you imposters. Taking the lead now while they watching. Think you should leave now while the option. Taking their wells, yeah, I gotta win. Watch me kick down the doors, they won't let me in. I'm running the game now. Foot on the gas, can slow down, no.
Welcome to another edition of the It's Cavalier podcast powered by Mellow Seltzer. Today, our Cleveland Cavaliers took on the Miami Heat, a franchise that they've kind of struggled against as of late. In fact, over the last 10 matchups, Cleveland had gone just 3-7. Miami has just been a thorn in this team's side for years. But that, my friends, is mostly with Jimmy Butler in the mix. As you all should know by now, as you all should be aware of by now, because we can't go a fucking day without some piece of news coming out. Jimmy Butler has been benched indefinitely via suspension, so we didn't have to worry about it. That said, Miami has always been a team that can hand you an L if you don't take them serious enough. And it ain't like they don't roster some very good players. Bam Adebayo and Tyler Herro lead the way with role players like Duncan Robinson, Nikola Jovic, Jaime Jaquez, and Terry Rozier providing good minutes. And let's not forget Khalil Ware, who is in the mix for Rookie of the Year. If I'm not mistaken, the odds-on leader for that award at the moment. And oh yeah, there's Kevin Love. Can't really forget about him. Always good to see familiar faces, I guess. All of that said, this is still a dangerous team, and as such, the Cavs needed to handle their business. But before we dive into tonight's action, do your boy a favor and smash that like button, subscribe, and hit that notification bell so you never miss out on post-game live streams. Alrighty, all plugging aside, first off, it bears mention that the Cleveland Cavaliers were without the services of half the fucking team, half the rotation today, man. Darius Garland, Karis LeVert, Dean Wade, Isaac Okoro, JT Thor, Luke Travers, and Sam Merrill, all for different reasons. That's a lot of fucking bodies, man. Let's just get that out of the way now. That's a lot of bodies to be out. And as soon as I saw the amount of players that would be missing from this one, I was immediately bummed out. The day before All-Star reserves are to be announced, Darius Garland would not play because of rest. And I get it. The man has played 45 of 46 prior to tonight. He's been in every single game. That he deserves rest. He has been the orchestrator of this offense, probably the reason why they are at this point where they are right now. So if anybody deserved a rest day, it was him. Despite that, I was still bummed out that he was not going to be hitting the floor tonight. And then after being bummed out, I was immediately hit with a wave of curiosity. Would Kenny Atkinson give DG's minutes to a number of players? Would it be spread out evenly? Would it be given to mostly one guy? Who would be bumped into the rotation? Could we see heavy Jaylen Tyson or Craig Porter Jr. minutes, or both? Would Amani Bates get his first real opportunity? These are all things that I wanted to know, and I'm sure you guys wanted to know as well. We all wanted to see what was going to play out, and it was answered pretty early on. As for the game plan heading into this one, Miami is a team that tends to thrive off of slow, controlled, deliberate offense. And as such, they play with a bottom four pace as of now. They try to get you to play at their speed, and the Cavs would need not to be lured or lulled into that type of game, especially without one of their best creators, if not their best creator, in Darius Garland. Cleveland, on the other hand, operates with a top 10 pace this season and has thrived off of it. They're often at their best when they're moving the ball, getting out in transition, and running their sets earlier in the shot clock, and not having Darius available for that. That could have potentially caused a lot of problems for the Cavaliers, and thankfully it did not. So right off the bat, we got what we wanted. We got Jaylen Tyson. Jaylen Tyson entered the starting lineup in place of DG, essentially. Max Strus slid over to the shooting guard. Donovan Mitchell slid over to one guard or point. And Tyson drew the start at the three and immediately made an impact on the glass and on the defensive end. And I know the stat sheet will say that this dude only finished with 4 points. But if you're looking at that stat sheet, it's not going to tell you how impactful this young man was. He had a nice drive early in the first quarter, which resulted in a high arcing floater that gave you some semblance of what we saw in the preseason and in summer league play from Tyson. And we knew if you watch this tape at Cal, that's what this dude is all about. So it was really nice to see him earn that start. I think it's only his second start of the season, but from an offensive standpoint, that driving ability is something he was known for, as I said, at the collegiate level with Cal. He was a pretty damn good slasher, and if you put the ball in his hands, he can make something of it. And to me, it's more of the off-ball reps that still need work, and you saw that tonight. He shot just 2 of 7 from the field tonight and 0 of 3 from three-point distance. All 3 of his three-point looks were of the catch-and-shoot variety, if my memory serves me correctly, and he had the space. I love the confidence for him to take that, but obviously the shot is not quite where we want it to be. But to have that confidence to do that, it's good. But when you put the ball in his hands, he can be rather impactful. We saw him get out in transition a number of times and deliver the ball to George Niang for a couple of gorgeous threes out there. We just consistently saw him move the ball to the right spot. And I think you need more guys like that, especially when you're down so many bodies, so many creators out there. He's not a respectable shooter just yet, but he's not exactly just standing around. He cuts baseline, runs out in transition, constantly looks to crash the offensive glass. And I thought he brought something tonight. And that, frankly, to me is awesome. I tweeted out, if we don't get at least 20 minutes of Jaylen Tyson tonight, then we're going to rage. We're going to lose it. And you know what? Kenny Atkinson heard that, or probably just really didn't have a choice considering he was out. And Jaylen Tyson played 30 minutes tonight. That is something you'll love to see. He's taking advantage of his opportunities, and that is certainly what you want to see out of your first-round pick. And he was staying in front of his matchups defensively, so I think he had a phenomenal game. Again, if you're reading the stat sheet and you did not watch this game, it's going to be mighty deceiving. It really is. The team as a whole, man. Cavs defense was great in the opening quarter. They held Miami to 21 points and outscored them 31-21 overall. The points in the paint were the big thing to keep an eye on. 24-8 in the first quarter. That it doesn't get any better to that. They just kept getting into that painted area and just abusing Miami. And then the second quarter began, and Miami went on somewhat of a mini run, scoring the first 5 points of the frame. And Terry Rozier was a huge part of this. And as if I needed to tell you guys, because you should be aware of this by now with how much the Cavaliers have played against Rozier. Tonight marked matchup number 28. This dude has been a Cavs killer in his career. Just absolutely been a knockdown shooter versus them. He is able to get to the rim at will. And prior to tonight's performance, Terry Rozier, man, this man was just putting up good stat line after good stat line. In those 27 career games prior to tonight, Terry Rozier was averaging 17.8 points, 4.1 rebounds, 3.5 assists, shooting a very efficient 45.6% from the field, including 42.4% from three-point distance, 85% from the free throw line, and 58.3% true shooting percentage. And tonight, Terry, man, scary Terry all over again. 22 points off that Miami Heat bench, 8 of 13 from the field, 2 of 6 from three-point range, and 4 of 4 from the charity stripe. That, to me, Terry Rozier has just consistently made himself a thorn in the Cavaliers side defensively. He had some really, really devastating drives to the rim where he had some crafty finishes. And he drilled a couple of triples tonight, but his driving ability, at points during the game, it kind of gave them a little bit of a push as the Cavaliers were kind of struggling to put him away in that third quarter. But for what it's worth, the Cavaliers were still able to withstand that. And to me, that came from unlikely sources tonight. Yes, Donovan Mitchell, Evan Mobley, Jared Allen, those guys were phenomenal tonight. But Ty Jerome, Max Strus, Craig Porter Jr., we'll talk about Craig here in a minute, but I was very, very impressed with the role players tonight. Don't get me wrong. Don't get me wrong at all. Donovan Mitchell finished with 34 points, 6 assists on 14 of 23 from the field, including 5 of 11 from three-point distance. And he was the one who pretty much put the nail in the coffin in that fourth quarter, going 5 of 7 in the fourth. And Evan Mobley was right there with him. But the role players, to me, they stood out. Tyson, Strus, Niang, Jerome, Porter, these guys all played huge roles in this Cavaliers team putting away Miami despite being down 5 rotation players. That is insane. I mean, you got production like you would probably not have expected from some unlikely sources. And credit to Miami. They tried to claw and scratch their way back into it. But the Cleveland just got a good stretch of minutes out of Jaylen Tyson whenever he was inserted. His impact on the defensive end was a sight to see. He spent time defending numerous players tonight, including Herro and Rozier. And we saw how valuable he can be, again, when he is driving towards that rim. And one of my favorite sequences of the night was when he found George Niang in the left corner for a wide open dribble off a fast break opportunity. The dribble penetration on that sequence alone made it happen. I mean, and again, the trio of Mobley, Mitchell, and Allen, they were phenomenal tonight. But you just got to give it up to the role players. And honestly, again, the parade, and that's the word that I'm going to use. The parade to the painted area, that was a killer for Cleveland tonight. They scored 68 total points in the painted area. 68 to Miami's 38. They had absolutely no answer for the likes of Evan Mobley, especially on the glass, where Mobley finished with 15 boards, and Jared Allen, a double-double himself, his 26th double-double of the season, 12 points, 10 rebounds, 5 of 7 from the field, in 29 minutes of action. Perhaps the best stat line of the night, or statistical fact from tonight, is that nobody played more than 33 minutes for the Cleveland Cavaliers. And that was not a core 4 member. That, my friends, was Max Strus, 33 minutes. Evan Mobley, 31 minutes. Donovan Mitchell, 34 points in 30 minutes. It's phenomenal. Ty Jerome, 20 points in 30 minutes off the bench. Ty Jerome has to be in the top 5, maybe even top 3 for 6th man of the year, because I think Peyton Pritchard's kind of cooled off since Kristaps Porzingis got back into the lineup over there in Boston. He's got to be up there. I would think that a couple more of these performances, and the award is still very much up for grabs. But yeah, as phenomenal as Mobley and Allen and Mitchell were tonight, I think this matchup was all about the production you got from your role players, especially when you're down so many valuable defensive pieces, man. And Tyson, to me, starting tonight, because that's not always going to be the case. This, if I'm not mistaken, this was only his 2nd start of the season. I think he also started earlier on with against the New Orleans Pelicans. I think that was the game. The New Orleans Pelicans was the only other game that Tyson started, and we know how awesome he was in that one. And man, he just showed on a different spectrum, because he put up points against the Pelicans, and that was to be expected because of who they had out in that matchup. But tonight, to me, he did it in ways that don't necessarily show up in the stat sheet, the defensive end. I can't wait until the defensive statistics are applied for tonight's game. I can't wait to see what the actual numbers say about how well Jaylen Tyson performed on that end of the floor, because to me, that was the tipping point. That was the true tipping point for a lot of the matchups that he saw tonight. Because Herro, we saw him in that 3rd quarter. This dude, I can't stand Tyler Herro because of how hot that he can get at times. I truly can. But even when he struggles, he is capable of catching fire at the drop of a hat. And don't make no mistake, he struggled mightily to find his shot in that first half. But then as the second half rolled around, Herro really, in the first half, Herro scored 7 points on 3 of 10 from the field, including 1 of 5 from 3-point distance. But at the end of that 3rd quarter, they went on an 8-0 run. All 8 points were scored by Taylor Herro in about 40 or so seconds. 2 triples and a layup. Not what you want to see happen. And that run helped them kind of, scratch and claw and try and get back into it before the 4th quarter happened. And Donovan and Evan absolutely shut shit down. But Herro, he is capable of being so flammable, and that sequence right there would pretty much be would be a perfect encapsulation of that. On the night as a whole, Herro would finish with 22 points, 5 rebounds, 6 assists, 9 of 20 from the field, including 4 of 10 from three-point range. So when you look at that first half stat line for him, viewed against the backdrop of what he finished with, it looks a lot better. 15 points scored in that second half alone, shot much better, especially from three-point range. So credit to him for trying to step up. And Bam Adebayo, despite Evan Mobley having a phenomenal game, 22 points, 15 rebounds, 2 assists, a block on 10 of 15 from the field, Bam was pretty damn good tonight himself. 21 points, 9 rebounds, 3 assists, 7 of 13 from the field, 5 of 6 from 3-point from the charity stripe, and 2 of 4 from 3-point range. With everything that's going on right now with Jimmy Butler, this team is probably going to be selling some pieces off, I can imagine. Now, as it currently stands, Miami is seated 6th in the Eastern Conference. They're 23-23 now on this season. Now, the Jimmy Butler trade, that it's going to happen eventually. It will happen. But when it does, I expect Miami to still compete. I just think that the Cavaliers, when you look at a player like Haywood Highsmith, let's talk about him for a second. Jesus, dude was drilling shot after shot at points. He scored 10 points in a 3-minute span to open that third quarter. That helped cut the lead the Cavaliers had at the time to 14, which still sounds like a massive lead. But when you consider how those points were scored, it was really impressive. He was phenomenal for Miami in this one, at least in that third quarter. And he would finish his game with a stat line, if I am not mistaken, let's see here. He would finish his game with 12 points on 5 of 7 from the field. So 10 of those 10 of those 12 points came in that 3-minute stretch to open the third. He was just making shot after shot. And I got to admit, that is actually a guy I would not mind seeing don the wine and gold. Maybe, and this is a huge maybe, this is a huge maybe if the Cavaliers try hard enough, maybe if the chips fall a certain way, maybe they can snag him in part of whatever inevitable Jimmy Butler trade occurs. Highsmith is 28 years old. He has size at 6'7". He can shoot the ball. He's over 40% on the season from three-point distance, and he's making under $6 million this year and next. That would be an awesome type of player to get on this roster. I doubt that happens. I'm just hoping. I'm just talking shit. But man, I really would like to see a player like Haywood Highsmith find their way to this Cleveland Cavaliers roster that still needs some bigger wings out there. And Haywood, he does some things out there that really impressed me. And on a team like Cleveland that has a number of really good shooters, I have no doubt that he could get even better looks than he gets with Miami right now. So it was really nice to see him kind of show out tonight, despite it coming at Cleveland's, at Cleveland's demise at times. But he is what I definitely respect. Despite Highsmith doing that, though, what was really impressive, even after that third quarter run that he had, the Cavs were ready. They stomped out every run with a run of their own. Niang, Strus, Ty Jerome each drilled triples to stymie that run as soon as it occurred. And just when I thought that they were primed to run away with that shit in the third, again, Terry Rozier kept attacking the Cavs with his dribble drives and had some really crafty finishes. But again, Donovan and Evan put the finishing touches on this thing in that fourth quarter, where Donovan went 5 of 7 and Mobley did a lot of damage, especially coming off some looks from Ty Jerome. And Ty, what else can we say? Again, what else can we say about this man that we haven't already said? 20 points, 3 rebounds, 7 assists off the bench on 9 of 18 shooting from the field, including 2 of 8 from three-point range. Not the most efficient night from range, but Ty, we know how damaging he can be with his dribble drives, with that floater. It is beautiful. It has so much arc on it. It's something that teams rarely can defend quite well, honestly, because he plays his angles so perfectly. I love it. I love it. And if this dude doesn't get 6 man of the year love, shit is rigged. That's all I can say. And, with that being the case, I just think that I really don't know heading into this trade deadline what the Cavaliers' decision-making process is going to look like. Because to me, there are a couple players on this roster that are expendable if Ty Jerome is playing like this, right? Karis LeVert is on an expiring deal right now. I would love to retain Karis past his contract, which, he's going to be a free agent this summer. But the question is, if they floated his contract out there, I wonder what they could really get, right? Cam Johnson obviously is the number one target that this team has on their bulletin board, right? He is the number one guy that all Cleveland fans, including myself, would love bringing in. And if it costs you Karis LeVert, George Niang, a couple other pieces, I think that you definitely entertain that deal. I think you make it, right? I have backed off my stance more and more lately that Jaylen Tyson is somebody that you would feel comfortable with letting go, because with each and every game that this dude gets action, I think the Cavaliers will legitimately pause and hesitate on moving off of that. And I get it. It's a double-edged sword, because on the one hand, you're looking at, okay, what could this dude potentially develop into? And we see that he can give you quality minutes. He did that tonight. You look at that, and then you look at it against the fact, or the idea rather, that this Cavaliers team appears ready to contend for a title this fucking year. So if you push your chips in for Cam Johnson, do you feel like that is the move to make that gets you over that proverbial hill, over the Bostons of the world, over the Oklahoma City Thunders of the world, to get you in that upper echelon of title contenders? And I think that Cam probably would be that guy, but that's a question for the Cavaliers, and it's also a question for Brooklyn on what they would feel comfortable with accepting on a potential offer. Now, if the Cavaliers stand pat at the deadline and they look to go the buyout market route, truth be told, I really don't know what's going to end up happening. The Jaylen Johnson news today, this is underrated, guys. Keep your ears open for this one. Jaylen Johnson is going to be out for a long time, right? His injury that was sustained, that is something that may render Larry Nance Jr. It's either going to go one of two ways, because Larry, he did not start off the season in the rotation for Atlanta. He was pulled in because of injuries that were mounting up for them. And then he started to show out. He's having a career season from three-point distance. But this can only go one of two ways. Either they lean further on Larry Nance Jr., or they say, this is not our year, and we start to trim some of the fat. And, no disrespect to Larry Nance Jr., but the contract that he is on right now makes him a depreciating asset. And so if they can't find a facilitator, if they're not sold on keeping him past a certain point this season, then it would behoove them to buy him out. If he becomes available, the Cavaliers have to snatch him up. That is my number one target on the buyout market. I know a lot of people disagree with me on the Ben Simmons, Lonzo Ball stuff, but I stand my ground on that one. I still see, if Kenny Atkinson has been able to get the most out of everybody that has stepped on the court, I think that taking a flyer on the buyout market, if Ben Simmons is bought out, it wouldn't be the worst thing you could do. I would also accept Lonzo Ball if he's bought out. I think a lot of people would probably be more leaning towards Lonzo, but I could still see the idea of a Ben Simmons, a guy who's multi-positional, a guy who has some defensive versatility to him, a high-level facilitator who's averaging 7.1 assists this season. Can do a lot of different things out of the pick and roll. And I see in the chat right now, a lot of people don't want that. But I think a lot of people are still caught up in the past of what happens with Ben Simmons and does he like to play basketball? Does he care about basketball? He's not a winning player. He only cares about himself type of things. When you're talking about acquisitions on a buyout market, it is important to understand that beggars cannot be choosers. The options are not that flush. What we know about Ben is that he is a big guard. that can defend, that can play multiple positions, that can drive and kick and get a lot of looks for your open guys out there, can facilitate. It can go either way. But as far as buyout acquisitions can get, it really, you're taking a dart on anybody who you bring in. Lonzo, Ben, Larry. Larry would be a perfect fit here. But at the end of the day, it's a buyout. It is a buyout acquisition. This is not somebody that you're trading for. It is somebody that's very easily, you can cut bait with them. And with that, I think it's probably a good place to get into the chat here. Dominica Guampala, hopefully I didn't butcher that, says hell no on Simmons. Respectfully, I disagree on that. I think that if he is one there, I think the Cavaliers locker room could withstand that. I don't think that the Cavaliers have such a shaky locker room that they couldn't handle. Their vibes have been ecstatic this season, and getting a Ben Simmons, it could be hit and miss, admittedly, from a locker room perspective, but we haven't heard a lot this year in regards to that. Sometimes it's important to consider that you have to take the here and now, not necessarily the past. I don't see all the disagreement in it, considering that the dude is considering how awesome of a facilitator he is, how good of a rebounder he is, the size that he has, he still has a lot of redeeming qualities. But nevertheless, feel free to disagree with me. Momo says he takes minutes from who? Tristan? At the anybody you acquire at the buyout market. Anybody you acquire at the buyout market is not a guarantee to enter the rotation. I don't think people are understanding that. I mean, it's not about necessarily getting somebody who can be an immediate plug and play option. It's about acquiring depth mostly at the backup guard or at the backup big position, preferably wing or big, right? But the thing about Ben is that he's positionally versatile enough to line up almost anywhere. I don't know. That's just me. Jay Quest says Cavs locker room could actually break him. And by break, I mean fix, LL, but nah. I just don't think it's a bad idea. I think that you could definitely use him from a theoretical standpoint. I acknowledge the flaws that he has from a mental standpoint, from a non-spacing standpoint, but these are things that Kenny Atkinson can scheme around, at least from the on-court perspective. So that's just me. Dr. Manhattan says, man, they played some lockdown defense. Also, Jaylen Tyson is so good. I know he's been in what if trade packages for Cam Johnson, but he's so good. The Tyson agenda continues. To me, Jaylen Tyson is somebody that you can develop into a long-term piece. Right now, he is a plug and play piece when you're down your rotation players. And honestly, I thought after tonight's performance, he may have played himself into Sam Merrill's minutes. Maybe that's sacrilege to say that. We're all big fans of Sam still, but Sam clearly, he hasn't looked like the same type of player that we have seen in years past from a spacing standpoint. And look, I get it. Sam is more than just a three-point shooter. He's more than just a movement shooter. He can do a lot of different things out there. But the intangibles that we have gotten from Jaylen Tyson, such limited action, the defensive tenacity and ferocity that he plays with, the poise that he has, got to clean up on the fouls, but he's a rookie. It will happen. I like what I'm seeing from him. And if I had to choose right now between Tyson and Merrill, there's a reasonable argument to be made for that, to me, in my opinion, at least. Dominica Guampala says, can they keep Ty? They can, but it's going to be heavily dependent upon how much money Ty is willing to concede. Because on the open market, Ty can probably get starting caliber money with the way that he's played, or at least a big pay bump than, considering what he's making right now, where he's making like 2-3 something bill. It is going to be a massive salary boost that he is going to receive. It's not like a LeVert where he's already making 16, 17 million. And there was an argument earlier on in the season that maybe his next contract would be, along the same lines or slightly higher. But there is a team out there that's seeing what Ty Jerome can bring to the table and saying, we will pay you much more money than Cleveland can pay you. And that is the scary part, right? It's going to come down to what Ty Jerome values most. If Ty values winning, championship contention, a solid role here off the bench, 20 plus minutes a night potentially, maybe he takes a pay cut to stay here on a short-term deal. But if a team throws the bag at Ty Jerome, it is very easy to see Ty Jerome leaving town too. It happens time and time again, guys. If he left and chased the bag, he would not be the first person to do that, and he certainly will not be the last. And I can't knock him for doing that either, because these guys, they're human, they got families to feed, and it is a business after all. So that's the downside to Ty Jerome having an explosive year. I think anybody, if somebody told you that they saw Ty Jerome being this impactful this year, they're lying. Everybody expected that he could bring something to the table in the such limited capacity that we saw from him in 2 games and in the preseason last year. But to see how he has been this season with Kenny Atkinson at the helm, I don't think anybody truly expected this level of production from Ty Jerome. He can arguably start on more than a few teams right now. He just doesn't start for Cleveland because Donovan Mitchell and Darius Garland are 2 all-star fucking guards out there. The guard depth here is insane when you think about it. all the really high caliber guards in that Cavaliers rotation. It is insane. Mauricio Hernandez says we need perimeter size, and by the way, he is a good defender. Talking about Ben Simmons, I agree. I would take the swing on it. It is a flyer. It's a buyout acquisition potentially. It's really going to be hit and miss. It's a dart throw with anybody you pick up on the buyout market. Only person I would take ahead of Ben Simmons on the buyout market, only 2 people. I would take Lonzo ahead of Ben. I would take Larry Nance Jr. ahead of both. Let him know 10 says low-key Amani Bates should have played some meaningful minutes tonight. I thought that maybe we might have gotten early Amani Bates minutes, considering that the Cavaliers only dressed I think they only dressed 10 tonight. I thought we were going to get early, but he played 1 minute tonight. But I will settle for Craig Porter Jr. minutes and Jaylen Tyson starting, because we discussed Tyson ad nauseum, and Craig Porter Jr. was awesome in his own right. Wasn't perfect. Had a couple of defensive lapses where I think that Tyler Herro got left open a few times. But in 21 minutes from Craig Porter Jr., you got 9 points, 4 rebounds, 2 assists, 4 of 7 from the field, 1 of 2 from 3-point range, and he was a +5 on the night off the Cavaliers bench. Craig Porter Jr., much like we saw from him all last season when the Cavaliers needed somebody in that guard room to step up, he did. And you got to respect that. He is a guy that consistently stays ready whenever his name is called upon. And that's why he's here. That's why the Cavaliers converted his contract. That's why they gave him the contract that they did. And I'm thankful that we have a player like Craig Porter Jr., in the rotation, or not in the rotation, on the roster right now, because it gives you a plug and play piece whenever Darius or Donovan or Ty or Karis is out. It's somebody that you can rely upon to give you, at the very least, orchestration out there. He's going to try his heart out on the glass. He had an offensive rebound in a tip-in. I think it was an offensive rebound and then a layup. He out-muscled, I forget who it was, down in the paint. But, man, at 6'2", it never ceases to amaze me how high of a leaper that Craig Porter Jr. is. So, credit to the Cavaliers front office for finding some talent, man. NSPR8 says, CPJ is always solid. Completely agree. Love the fact that the Cavaliers have him. He is another guy that could probably be a rotation regular for a lot of other teams out there, but he's just playing in a stacked guard rotation. Momo says, I'm kind of surprised they haven't used Travers at all lately. He seems serviceable. I think Travers has actually been nursing an injury all season long. He's played through it, but he's actually been nursing an injury, if I'm not mistaken. HJ17 Gaming says, I swear if Tyson doesn't get minutes tomorrow, I will be pissed at Kenny. Kenny knows what we want. Kenny has his thumb on the pulse of Cleveland social media. Obviously, I'm kidding, but Kenny Atkinson, whether he is forced to, or whether or not, or whether he actually viewed the production that he got from Jaylen Tyson tonight, he saw that, and there's no way that Tyson won't be available, right? To me, solid piece, probably could be a rotation regular right now at the end of the rotation, but it is no given because of how deep the rotation currently is. Momo says, lay off Kenny's son. Yeah, I don't think anybody realistically doesn't trust Kenny to make the right decision because I'd say about 95% of the time, because he hasn't been 100% perfect. It started the season off perfect from a rotation standpoint, from a lever pulling standpoint. But I say about 95% of the time, Kenny has pulled the right levers at the right times. He's made in-game adjustments like we have never seen, or at least we haven't seen in a long time from a Cavaliers head coach. And his ability to draw plays for his guys, especially ATOs, phenomenal. And so I trust Kenny with most decisions, if not all decisions out there, because who else are we going to trust? Jose says Kenny's only bad game this year was against the Rockets the other day, where he did the hack at Adams. And even in that game, that was a calculated risk. Kenny took that risk knowing full well that Steven Adams is like a 50-something% shooter from the free throw stripe. Yes, it broke up the flow of the game. Yes, the Cavaliers were managing to slice into that lead at that point in time when they decided to do that. But Adams did miss a few of those, and the Cavaliers did get a couple of buckets off of that. And you can argue that taking that calculated risk right there is a good move or a bad move, depending upon your perspective of basketball. But I don't fault him for trying that. It's just ugly. It's just not an aesthetically pleasing thing to see. But yeah, I don't know. Considering who is out against Houston, I can't put too much blame on Kenny, because as much as we've been shitting on the zone defense lately, the zone with the personnel who is out there, it's not always going to be the most effective thing. It just doesn't favor certain players. We talked about that with George Niang, right? It is not something that really favors him. And that's why having players like Karras, Dean, and Isaac is so vital in matchups like that, where you have an Amin Thompson, when you have a Tari Eason, when you have a Cam Whitmore, guys, big wings out there, tall, lengthy, lanky wings. It really shows up. But tonight, the Cavaliers balled out. You got production from up and down your roster. There was really no bad points to me tonight. It wasn't a perfect game by any means. Cavaliers shot pretty poorly in that first half, and they shot poorly for the night as a whole. Just 31% from 3-point distance on 13 of 42 overall. They took 100 shots tonight. That's crazy, man. 100 shot attempts tonight. They did shoot 54% from the field. So, they buoyed the poor perimeter shooting out with good 2-point shooting, right? And a lot of that, the bulk of that came at the rim, where they scored at will, whether that is Donovan Mitchell driving inside, knifing his way in, having some crafty finishes in there, or it's Evan Mobley going to work in the painted area, or Jared Allen getting a couple of putbacks and lobs at the rim. It was good. It was good stuff. And the last thing that I'll mention tonight, the Cavaliers turned the ball over 7 times tonight. 7 times. They forced 12 Miami Heat turnovers. And you know what? This Cavaliers team just reinforces the idea that they are very decisive, very controlled, and have made some of the best decisions out there, leading to some of the most beautiful basketball that you will see. They got a boatload of points off of turnovers tonight, 22 points off of turnovers, off of Miami's 12 turnovers, to Miami's 12 points off of Cleveland's 7 turnovers. So they are careful with the basketball, something that at points against specific teams felt like a huge deal. But honestly, they've been very, very careful with the ball, especially as of late. So awesome to see. Hopefully they can continue that trend in their matchup. Let's see here, with their matchup against the Atlanta Hawks tomorrow, the second leg of a back-to-back. We know Atlanta has beaten Cleveland the last 2 times that they faced off against them, and it's coming off the second leg of back-to-back. Hopefully Darius Garland plays for this. I would hate to take another L against Atlanta, but time will tell. We know that the wings there that they have, and Jalen Johnson being out, that's a big deal. That is going to hurt Atlanta in that matchup and as the season wears on. But at the end of the day, they're still going to be dangerous. The Cavaliers have to be able to walk in there and, and get that W, because it has not been something that has come easy against Atlanta as of late. I don't know, man. I don't know. Jeffrey Lee says, shout out Momo for checking on Travers so I didn't have to. 6'8", serviceable, small forward. I think, to me, Luke Travers could be serviceable, but at the end of the day, he is not able to shoot the ball all that well right now. He's been nursing an injury. In the forward rotation, can you make a case that Travers should get a couple of looks? Sure, but at the end of the day, I think that you have to look at what you have available to you, especially at full strength. In games like this, yeah, you wouldn't mind seeing a Travers, but obviously he wasn't available. And at full strength, there's no way in hell that he's getting minutes over Dean Wade. There's no way he's getting minutes over Isaac. There's no way he's getting minutes over Max. Sam plays some three at times, as crazy as that sounds. There are just a number of players. Jaylen Tyson started at the three tonight. Not something that is going to allow Luke to get on the court. We love him. Let him continue to develop. Let him nurse that injury that he has. That's why you haven't seen him a lot this year, by the way. Again, the lingering issue that he has with his injury. It's simple as that to me. But yeah, this is a developmental piece. Hopefully they can continue his development. Same with Amani Bates, who we already said he played just 1 minute tonight. We were hoping that we would have seen more of him tonight, but I think as the season goes on, you're probably going to start seeing more of Amani in games like this. I don't know. Time will tell. As always, tell you guys, if you'd like to reach out to me, and I can, it's Cavalier_pod on Twitter, TikTok, Instagram, YouTube, and more. If you want to be added to the It's Cavalier Discord chat, you know what to do. Leave a rating, leave a review, send a screenshot of said review to It's Cavalier53@gmail.com, and I will send you said invite. If you're watching over on X, do your boy a favor, head on over to YouTube. Doesn't take you but a couple of seconds. Hit that like button. Subscribe if you're not yet a subscriber. Hit that notification bell so you know when I'm going live. I tend to go live after every game. I have not missed a game this season, and I hope to continue that trend tomorrow against the Atlanta Hawks, come rain or shine, win or a loss. If you want to support the pod in a small but meaningful way, consider becoming a member over on Patreon or over on YouTube for as low as $1 a month. You never know how much you help out your favorite content creators by doing so. And even if you don't, I'm still here to create Cavs content. Go Cavs.